So encapsulation is the first pillar of our object-oriented programming. It is the practice of bundling data, fields, and the methods that operate on that data into a single unit. We call that a class. While restricting direct access to the internal state, the class exposes a controlled interface and all interaction happens through that interface. Okay. The core idea is information hiding. External code does not need to know how a class stores or manages its data internally. It only needs to know what operations are available. So we have some solid motivation here, and overall goal is that it's the principle that says an object should control its own state. External code should never be able to reach in and modify an object's internal data directly. Okay, that is overall goal. Now, why direct field access is a problem? When you leave fields public, you give up all control over how they are read and modified. Any class can assign any value at any time, and the object has no opportunity to validate or reject that value. Okay. No encapsulation. You have this class and you have this public int temperature. Anyone can modify this one at any point of time. Let's say someone read negative 500. We don't have any validation. So our this object accept this one silently. So let's say we have one example, smart home. Object had no chance to reject negative 500 as an invalid temperature. By the time a bug appears downstream, the corrupted data could have propagated through multiple layers, right? Now what we can do is we can make this private and we can provide one setter function that is set temperature. We can take this input and we can validate this one. Okay, that's fine. Now the class controls its own state. Invalid values are caught at the point of entry. We have some benefits of encapsulation. First one is data validation. By making fields private and exposing setters, we force all modifications to pass through some validation logic. The object guarantees its own consistency. Okay. You can make your fields private and you can expose some setter functions. First one is deposit, second one is withdraw, all right, and get balance. External code cannot set balance to this one directly. The only way to modify the balance is through deposit and withdraw, both of which enforce business rules. Okay, you can have any examples. Another one is internal flexibility. This one is very powerful. If we decide to change how a field is stored internally, we only need to modify the code inside the class. External code that uses getters and setters doesn't need to change. Okay. For example, if smart home later stores temperature in Fahrenheit internally, but the public API remains in Celsius, you only update the getter and setter. You can take a look into these examples. Okay, you will understand very easily. Then we have a complete encapsulated class, employee class, demonstrating all the principles together. We have these 4 private fields. Okay, then we have public employee. This one is one constructor, parameterized constructor. Okay, read only. ID cannot change after creation. Get name, set name. Okay, get department, set department, get salary, set salary. Okay, that's fine. Now encapsulation versus data hiding. These terms are often used interchangeably, but they refer to different concepts. Encapsulation, focus, bundling data and behavior into a single unit, a class. Implementation, the class itself, fields plus methods together. Okay. And this one is like broader concept, bundling data, fields and behavior methods into a single unit. Our data and the code that operates on it live together, right? Then we have data hiding, restricting direct access to internal data. Private access modifier on fields. A specific technique used to achieve encapsulation. Encapsulation is broader concept. Data hiding is one technique used to achieve it. A class can be encapsulated without data hiding, right? but proper encapsulation always includes data hiding. We have quick summary. You can take a look into that. We are not doing any code practice in this one because this one is very simple. Mark your fields privates and expose getters and setters. Okay. This one is constructor, expose, this one is getter, and this one is setter. By convention, use something like get, then your field name. Okay. For setter, use set, then your field name. Very simple, right? We can move forward with our last chapter, which is getters and setters. Getters, setters, and the Java Bean standard. Once you make your fields private, you need a controlled way for external code to read and modify them. This is done through accessor methods. We call that getters and mutator methods setters. In Java, these follow a specific naming convention called the Java Beans standard, which allows frameworks like Spring, Hibernate, and Jackson to automatically discover and interact with our class fields. The structure of getters and setters. A getter returns the value of a private field. A setter updates the value and can include validation logic to reject invalid input before it corrupts the object state. Okay. Let's say we have these two fields, private fields basically. We have this getter, which is just returning our value. Okay. Then we have setter. We have some validation. Okay. Then we have getter for our age and setter for our age. Now, without the setter, external code could assign directly. All right. Java Beans convention. The Java Beans specification defines a standard for how Java classes should be structured so that tools and frameworks can inspect and manipulate them automatically via reflection. Following this convention is not optional in professional Java development, right? Private fields, all instance variables must be private, no exceptions. Public, no argument constructor. A constructor with no parameters must exist either explicitly defined or the default one provided by Java if you are not providing any parameterized constructor, right? Frameworks like Hibernate use this constructor to create instances before populating fields via setters. Very necessary step. Naming convention for regular fields. For a field named name, the getter must be getName, okay, and the setter must be setName. The first letter of the field name is capitalized, something like that, okay. Naming convention for Boolean fields. For a Boolean field, the getter uses is instead of get. A field named active has the getter is active and not something like get active, okay. The setter remains set active. These are some conventions you can follow. All right. We have one example. Why this convention matters. Frameworks like Spring and Jackson do not read your source code. They use reflection to look for methods. Name, get something like that. Set is at runtime. If your methods do not follow this naming pattern, the framework will not detect your fields and serialization, dependency injection, and form binding will silently fail. And we will see these kind of things in our reflection chapter in detail. Okay. Then we have read only and write only fields. Encapsulation allows you to provide asymmetric access to fields. Read only, provide a getter but not setter, right? We have one example, something like order ID that should not change, and we can mark this one final, and we can provide its value in constructor. Okay. Write only, provide a setter but not getter. This is less common. Now, computed properties. A getter does not need to map directly to a stored field. It can compute and return a derived value. This is one of the key advantages of using getters over direct field access. Let's understand this example. We have these private variables, width and height, and let's say we want to calculate area, get area, okay? So this method doesn't correspond to any field, but it uses two fields to return something, okay? So this one is computed property. We have another one. You can take a look into this example, class person, first name, last name, okay? This one is computed get full name. The external code calls get full name as if it were reading a stored field. If you later change the internal representation, for example, storing a single full name field instead of two separate fields, external code does not need to change. Okay. We have some benefits in large systems, validations, debuggings, loggings, computed properties, and internal flexibility. So for that, you can change the internal data representation without breaking external code that uses the getters and setters, right? You can take a look into our summary part and we can move to our next topic, which is inheritance.